Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing, is my ex testing me? I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my websites for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing, is my ex testing me? So if you have been through a breakup, you might be wondering how you know if your ex is testing you. This could be during the breakup itself, or if you communicate again in the future. In today's podcast, I'm going to describe 3 potential tests that your ex might be giving you. Before we start, I'd like to ask everyone to type into the YouTube comments how long ago your breakup was. This will help give me an indication of what stage most of my listeners are at. So thank you for doing that, and now let's get straight into it. So point number 1 and test number 1 is needing assurances. So during the breakup itself, the dumper is likely to give the reasoning behind their decision to end the relationship. Now at that point, the breakup is taking place. The dumpee has been informed why the dumper is ending the relationship. And at this moment, the dumper will be requiring assurances as for why the dumpee believes that this relationship can continue. Now, this is where no contact confusion can take place. So in the vast majority of instances, I do suggest that if you have been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. But this no contact only begins once the breakup is finalized. So you must understand that whilst the breakup is active, whilst you're in the process of being told that you've been dumped, you have every right to give your point of view. You have every right to describe why you believe this relationship should continue. It's only when the dust has settled, it's only when everything becomes clear that the breakup is really definitely taking place. It's only then that you implement my version of the no contact rule. If you want to learn more about my version of a no contact rule, then I suggest that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring the bell for notifications so you are notified of my future uploads. I would also suggest that you check out the playlist on my YouTube channel entitled The No Contact Rule. If you listen to all of that through, you can fully immerse yourself in my variant of the rule and understand why I believe it will give you the best possible chance of success and why it differs to other versions of a rule that you might find online. But as I've just been saying, you don't implement my version of a no contact rule the very second you are told you are dumped. You implement it once the dust has settled. So this might mean it's an hour or two later. This might mean it's a day or two later. Every situation is different. Every relationship, every breakup is different. When it is absolutely clear that your relationship is over, when it's absolutely clear that the dumper has made a finalized decision, that is when you implement it. You implement it ASAP from that moment. But during the time of the breakup, when the dumper has said, look, I want to end this relationship, we can't carry on, this is not the moment to implement the rule. If your ex, the dumper, says to you, I'm ending the relationship because I don't believe that you can be financially responsible, it's not advisable for you to say nothing. It's not advisable for you to go no contact. This will not help you. Instead, you need to be giving them assurances as for why you believe that you can live a better life in this aspect. And you can really translate this to your own unique situation. Of course, not everybody's going to be dumped because of financial reasons. There's going to be a whole host of reasons as for why somebody's ending the relationship. But ultimately, if they give you a reason, You can give them assurances as for why this won't happen again, as for why you will be better at something in the future, as for why you think they are wrong for what they are saying. Whatever the situation, you can put your point of view across. And this is why, number one, the first test is needing assurances. When somebody dumps you, they are in essence saying, I can't continue in this way. I don't feel fulfilled in this relationship. Can you give me assurances that things will be different? And in this brief moment of time, and like I said, it would depend differently depending on what situation you are in. If you're face to face, this will be until you go your separate ways. So you could be together for an hour, a few hours, 20 minutes. It could vary massively. If this is over text, these texts might go over a day or two. If this is a phone call, you might have a couple of different telephone calls. It could be different in every single way. But you will know in your heart when it is over, when the final decision has been made. That is when you implement my version of a no contact rule. Before that point, you need to give assurances to your ex, who at the time is still technically your partner. You need to give them assurances as for why the future can be different and why they can feel fulfilled in your current connection. So again, as I gave that example, if your ex dumped you because they don't believe you're financially responsible, you can give them assurances as for why you will be in the future. Now, if they still maintain that they want to end the relationship, that is when you implement no contact. But before that point, you can give them assurances. And this is the test. If you go no contact straight away, if you just go silent, if you vanish at that time, then you have failed that initial test, because the test is basically saying, tell me why this relationship can continue. Tell me why you can change. Tell me why you believe this will be better in the future and why we can both feel fulfilled in this connection. So point number one, test number one, is actually at the epicenter of a breakup, and number one was needing assurances. So now let's move into point number two of today's podcast and the second test that your ex might be giving you. And point number two, test number two, is the texting test. So if you've been dumped and you've implemented my version of a no contact rule, it can be a magical moment if and when you receive contact from your ex. This means you have entered the communication stage and the next step along of trying to successfully get your ex back. Now, if you are a dumpee and you receive a text message from your ex, this is the moment where you need to stay cool, you need to stay calm, and you need to be stable-minded, because this is a test. When your ex texts you, this is the texting test. And in essence, what the dumper is likely testing at this time is your level of neediness. So your ex, the dumper, texts you, the dumpee receives this message, they're absolutely delighted, and what do? They think to themselves instantaneously, I want to reply within 1 millisecond. Okay, and they send that response, and at that time the dumper doesn't reply again for a long time. Now in reality, it's not really a long time. It might be a few hours, it might be the following day, but for the dumpee, this can feel like eternity. Now, of course, there are caveats to this. Firstly, the dumpee must make sure they ask a question at the end of their initial response, because if they don't, there's no reason for the dumper to reply. Additionally, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time. So even if the dumpee does everything right, there is no guarantee that they will be able to reconnect. But in most instances, if the dumper reaches out, sends a text, the dumpee responds with a message and a question at the end of their own contact, then the dumper will in most instances respond to this once more. But they might not respond instantly. They could take many hours. They might take a day or two. Now, if the dumpee starts to get worried about this, if the dumpee starts to feel needy, they might make the big mistake of double texting. The dumpee might send a message an hour later saying, oh, just checking you got my message. Or they might even become bitter, angry, frustrated, and send a sarcastic message or an angry message saying something such as, thanks for replying, or why aren't you replying? If the dumpee does these things, they are making a huge mistake. They've got to understand that the dumper is testing them. Firstly, the dumper might be genuinely busy and that is why they haven't responded instantly. Or secondly, if they're implementing this test, they are seeing if their ex dumpee is stable-minded. Are they somebody who is needy, jealous, possessive, controlling? Or can they stay calm? So if you receive a text, not just from your ex, but from anybody, the general rule should be you should never double text. Now, of course, there might be instances or emergencies or something such as that. You've got to use your common sense as for when you might send another message. But if you do, you might decide to do it on a different platform, just in case there is a problem in some rare instances with what you were using at the time. But when we're talking about exes, when we're talking about this situation, you should really be thinking, this isn't an emergency. There is no reason for me to be double texting. It's like a game of tennis. Somebody hits the ball over the net and they can't hit it again until it's been replied to them, until it's been hit back, they can't hit it again. Think of it as a game of tennis. So your ex texts you, you text back, and you should never text again unless they text you back, okay? So just always think of it that way, and you will stay in a great position of moving things forward. You will pass your ex's test if you showcase that you're stable-minded, you're not needy, and if your ex doesn't reply, you will never contact them again. Now, at the start of point number 2, when I said that you receive the message as a dumpee and you reply instantly, okay, that is something else for me to be mentioning here. Now, if you're to do that, you're probably not going to get in a whole heap of trouble, but in my opinion, it is advisable to just leave a little bit of time. So even if you see this message come through, don't reply for 10 minutes, okay? It's no biggie. You don't need to reply within a millisecond. Additionally, if you're busy, don't reply until you have finished doing what you're doing. If that takes a few hours, if that's the following day, absolutely fine. I do suggest making sure you reply within a day or so, because it's unlikely that you wouldn't have noticed this message at that time, and hence it can come across as if you were playing some type of game. You don't want your ex-dumper to be thinking this. If they have messaged you on a platform that you both know that you would have seen quite quickly, there is no point in pretending that you haven't noticed it in a week. Okay, so try to reply within a day or so, but if you're busy, don't stop what you're doing to send the message. Finish what you're doing. And always remember, if you text your ex back, don't send another message unless you get a response. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast, the final test that I'm going to be describing you today that your ex might be testing you with. And point number 3, test number 3, is meeting up. So if you navigate the communication stage effectively, you will get to the position where you meet up with your ex. Now, the important thing to remember is that the whole of the first meetup is a test. Everything that happens in this meetup is a test. And to make things even more challenging, you've got to stay cool and you've got to stay calm, even though you know it's a test. Because every single interaction during this meetup will be judging whether there is still a spark between you, and in essence, whether it's an even better spark than before, because the original spark, sadly, did die out. There needs to be a new spark, a stronger spark, a more exciting spark, and something to really build upon for both of you. You should also be testing your ex when you meet up. This isn't a one-way street. You need to decide if you want to reconnect as well. But the way you present yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, every single thing that you do on this meetup will be judged as a test. Make sure you look your best. Make sure you've got fantastic personal hygiene. Make sure you smell fantastic. Those crucial elements are things which will be noticed straight away. If you're not looking your best, smelling your best, with great personal hygiene, then instantaneously, this could be the end. But even if you do all of that when you meet up, you've got to make sure you present yourself as happy, carefree, and fun. Don't be needy, possessive, or jealous. Don't quiz your ex excessively on your time apart. Make sure you live in the moment and be the type of person that other people want to spend time with. The aim of a first meetup with an ex is to have another meetup. Okay, that is the aim, that is the goal. It's not necessary for you to agree to get back together at the end of the meet. In fact, I would strongly advise not bringing anything up about the breakup or any potential new relationship. You've just got to be having a good time. and get to the impression that you will see each other again. Things will grow naturally. Don't put dating labels on things. Don't add pressure. Don't create situations which are awkward. Don't give ultimatums. All of these things will be judged when you meet up. And like I said, you need to be doing the same judging back. This isn't a one-way street. It's for both of you to want to see each other again. But when we're talking about tests, it's hugely important to understand that when you meet up for the first time, that is a complete test. The whole of a meetup is a test. Your ex is being tested by you. You are being tested by your ex. If you decide to meet up in the future, then you know that you have passed each other's tests and you can move forward on the journey to reconnecting. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent Bo, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back, or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent Bo got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.